Okay, in this video I'm going to be doing factorising when a is not equal to 1 for ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, that's what we're going to be doing in this video. In other words, if there's a number in front of x squared that's not 1, what do we do when we're trying to factorise that? Okay, and I'm going to be doing a method called cross multiplying, and there are other ways to do this, but I found this is the best way for students to do this quickly, the best they can. So cross multiplying. What I'm going to do is, maybe I'll just give a few tips first. It's called cross multiplying. The first tip though is just to check, firstly, check that there is no common factor. Okay, so firstly, before you start doing cross multiplying and all that rubbish, just check firstly that there's no common factor that you can first do at the start. Once there is no common factor and you're sure about that, then you can try cross multiplication. But I think the best way to do this is to just get straight into an example. Let's go into an example. So factorise negative 2x squared minus 20x minus 18. Okay, so here we've got a trinomial and we've got this negative 2 in front of the x squared. So this is clearly this case. And I've just said this, and we want to check that there's no common factor. In other words, can we factorise out whatever's in front of the x squared? And in this case, we can. Okay, so let's do that. I'll go across because I run out of space otherwise. There's a 2, there's a 20, and there's a negative 18. There's a common factor here. We can actually take the negative 2 out the front. What's left if we take out the negative 2 from that? We're left with x squared. What's left from the negative 20x? It'll be positive 10x. And then what would be left from negative 18? It would be positive 9. Okay, and so we're left with this. But it's not factorised yet. We've taken a negative 2 out, but this is still not factorised in here. So what do? Well, hopefully by now you might be good at these. We're looking at positive 9. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to give positive 9, that add together to give positive 10. Because what we've got in here now, this in here, is your trinomial which has just a 1. A is equal to 1 now. Okay, so this is something that we can factorise. So what are two numbers that multiply to give 9? 3 and 3, that's not going to give you 10. 9 and 1, yes, that will give you 10. Okay, so our numbers are positive 1 and positive 9. They multiply together to give that, they add together to give that. So your answer is, you have negative 2 at the front. You break that up into two brackets with x there and x there, and our numbers are positive 1 and positive 9. And that is your answer there. That's fully factorised as far as you can go. So that is lovely. So always check for a common factor first. That's your first port of call, and it'll make your life a lot easier. Okay. Second example, this is actually going to require cross multiplication, and I'll explain. Right. Hold on to your hats. Cross multiplication, what you need to do firstly is to write down the two numbers that will multiply together to give you first number here. Okay, so what are two numbers that multiply together, and you write them on top of each other. So you write a 2 there and a 1 there. That's our only option. This is actually a fairly easy one because we've only got one choice here. And what I want you to do once you've written those numbers is just to write an x there and an x there. And basically these two things multiply together to give 2x squared. 2x times 1x is 2x squared. Okay, so we're going to write those two, and we're going to write this little multiplier across there. Now what we're also going to do is look at this last number. Okay, so we start with the first number, now we're going to look at the last number and look at the multiples, the numbers that multiply together to give this number. Okay, again it's just 2 and 1. They're our only options. And so what we just need to do is go through and try a bunch of different options. Okay, so we write 2 and 1 there because they multiply together to give 2. And what we want to do is see that when we cross multiply, in other words when we times this by this and this by this, and we add them together, what we want to try to do is find the combination that gives us plus 5x. Okay, that's what we're trying to do. So the only other combination that we can try is this combination and this combination down here. So those in the other opposite way around. Okay, so let's just have a look at which one works. Right, let's just start. Let's do your first option and it's your second option. Let's see which one works. They're the only two that will work. 2x times 1 is 2x. 1x times 2 is also 2x. Okay, can you add or subtract or do anything with these to create positive 5x? Does that work? Is there any way we can do that? Well, no. We can create 0x, we can create 4x, we can create negative 4x, we can do a bunch of things, but that does not give us 5x. There's no way we can get 5x there. So that does not work. No. Okay, that doesn't happen. Let's have a look down here. In this second option, we've got 2x times 2, which is 4x. We've got x times 1, which is x. Can we, by putting a positive or negative in front of one of these, can we create positive 5x? We can. How do we create positive 5x? We need positive 4x, positive x. That will give us 5x. So this will work. But before you get all happy, we just need to make sure what we've got. We need to create positive 4x. How do we create positive 4x? We've got this 2x times 2. That's what gave us the 4x. We just need to make sure that that's positive 2 to give us positive 4x. We also need positive x, and so we need to say here that's going to be positive 1 because we want to create positive x. Once you've got all these down, that is your factorization. All you do is write your two brackets and you write out the top line 2x plus 1, and you write out your bottom line x plus 2, and that is your answer. Okay, so just let me summarize. I'll change color pen so I can draw on crap. So here we go. We've got, there's no common factor here. I didn't say that at the start, but I should have checked for a common factor. No, you can't take 2 out of everything. That doesn't work. So we go into cross multiplication. We look at the numbers that multiply together to give 2. So I've got 2 and 1. And we just write the x's there because x times x is x squared, like up here. They need to multiply together to give 2x squared. And then we look at the last number. What are the numbers that multiply together to give positive 2? Well, it's 2 and 1, and our other option is 1 and 2. So it's sort of, we need to try every combination. And so then you look at, well, if you cross multiply, so you multiply these together, and if we multiply those together, and then we add them together, what will we get? And what we're trying to do is find the combination that creates the middle number there. And so once you find it, here was the combination. You need to just to check, is it positive or negative? Okay, in this case they are both positive, and then you write down the answer. Pretty complicated, and sometimes it takes a lot of work to actually find the answer, but you get better at it the more practice, and you start knowing what to look for. Okay, I'll just do one more example of this because really at the end of the day it's just about doing some practice. 10x squared minus x minus 2. Firstly, look for a common factor. Is there a common factor? No, we can't take 10 out of everything. It doesn't work. We need to use cross multiplication. Okay, right, let's look at the factors of 10. What are the factors of 10? And I'm just going to, I'll just do it here, it doesn't matter. 10, let's do 10 and 1. So we're going to do 10 and 1, so it's going to be 10x and 1x like that. We'll do our cross multiplication. What are the factors of 2? Well, it's going to be 2 and 1. There'll also be the other way around. We'll have 10x, 1x, and there'll also be the other way around, 1 and 2. So let's just see if either of these work. What's 10x times 1? Well, that's 10x. What's 1x times 2? That's 2x. Can you put these two together to create negative 1x? No, that doesn't work. Okay, now let's look at this one. What's 10x times 2? 20x. What's 1x times 1? That's just x. Can you put those two together to create negative x? No, doesn't work either. Okay, I shouldn't have taken up too much space. But I'll just delete that. But neither of those work because I just need to use that space. I'm going to run out. So the combination of 10x and 1x, that does not work. So let's move on to a different combination for this. Let's try 5x and 2x. 5x and 2x. Okay, and here we'll have 2 and 1, and we'll also have 5x, 2x, and we'll just try the other combination of 1 and 2. And let's see if this might work. And this just takes a bit of, and in fact this is all the different combinations that you could possibly try, because there's no other factors of 10. 5 and 2, yep, that's all there is. So let's just check it. 5x times 1 is 5x, 2x times 2 is 4x. Now, can we create negative x from these two terms by putting a plus and minus? In fact, yes, we can. How would we create negative x? Well, we want the 5x, because it's 1 bigger than 4x, we want that to be negative. So negative 5 plus 4 will give us negative 1x. And so that will work. There's our answer. Don't even need to try this one. So we need to create a negative 5x. So this here needs to be a negative 5x. The way I do that is by making that negative 1. We need to have a positive 4x, so 2x times 2 gives us that 4x, so that needs to be a positive 2. So our answer is, I'll just write it up here, put it in the two brackets, bang, bang, and we write our top line out, 5x plus 2, and we write our bottom line out, 2x minus 1. And so that's your answer. Remember, you're writing the top line and the bottom line. Don't do what some people do and write the cross multiplication in your answer. The answer is the top line and the bottom line. Hope that makes sense. Get practicing on them, because it'll make more sense once you've had a go.